Welcome to Trail Manners, the podcast so dedicated to mountain trails and running that they broadcast out of a 78 Volkswagen bus in the mountains. Who does that? Eric and Joel are your hosts and will bring you the trail life as you may have not heard it before. You hear about everything from gear reviews, nutrition to keep you upright and moving forward, and they'll even bring guests into the bus for conversations that you won't hear anywhere else. It's time for some running adventures on a higher elevation. The old 78 Volkswagen bus is fired up and headed to the mountains. Here are your hosts for Trail Manners, proudly representing the 801 with their passion and love for the trails. Eric Manning and Joel Hatch.
Welcome to the Trail Manners Podcast, episode number 66. Today, we're going to be talking with Misty Alessandri about her running background and her win at the Pony Express 100 in 2016. So if this is your first time listening, then thanks for coming. The Trail Manners Podcast is produced every week for enjoyment, and show notes are found at trailmanners.com. Come back often, and please feel free to add the podcast to your favorite RSS feed or iTunes. You can also follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Trail Manners. All links are in the show notes. Now let's get after it. All right, welcome back to another episode of the Trail Manners Podcast, episode number 66. We are on location in Syracuse, Utah today with an awesome guest who we've known for quite some time. Unfortunately, Joel was not able to make it today. He's home building a snowman right now and shoveling his driveway, I'm sure. No, he had some things come up. He wasn't able to make it today. So we've got Misty Alessandri with us. Misty, thank you so much.
Hey, I appreciate the opportunity to do this. This is exciting.
We're excited, too. I wish Joel was here for sure, but, he planned on being here. Something came up, but as me and Joel, we FaceTime a lot. So,
right.
Like right before we go to sleep, we FaceTime and say goodnight and stuff. So he made sure.
Surprise me.
Yeah. so we've got his questions too, and some things we want to talk about, but we want to jump right into it. We've known you for a little while now.
Yes.
How did you get into trail running? What was your transition? What was your, running background like before you got into trail running?
So I didn't just start on the road. I started on the treadmill. and I've always been an active person. I usually go to the gym, do elliptical, treadmill all my life, even since I was a teenager. I ended up getting bored on the treadmill probably in my early 20s is when it happened. And I would go to Weber State University because we had actually a contract with them. I work over by there, and that was our wellness contract, and we were able to use their facilities. And, people were starting to run the track, and I said, God, I need to step up. I need to start on the track. Well, I was able to run for, 3 miles on the track, and I thought, do you know what? This may be my new beginning. It felt great to get off a treadmill. And I thought, I'm not going to stay motivated if I just do this. I've got to have a goal. I do better in life if I'm goal oriented. Sometimes, I don't make them, but I find that I stay very determined and stay very motivated if I have that goal. So I decided to do a half marathon. So at this time, I'm strictly road, never heard of trail running, never fathomed going up in the mountains. But don't get me wrong, I love nature, and I love camping, and I love fishing, and I've spent a grundle of time up in the mountains, but I've never knew that people actually ran the trails up there. So it took about a year. I did some road runs, some races. I got just exhilarated, just the whole feeling of actually accomplishing something like that. I mean, the times never really made a big deal to me at the start, just finishing something like that and having those people on the sidelines screaming for you. They don't even know you, and they're screaming for you to go. And I mean, that just pumped me up even more. And so it was during that time, that was, like I said, my early 20s, I actually met Forrest Stewart.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I met him through work. Well, he was a fellow runner too, and he actually said, hey, you want to try a different kind of running? Because I said, well, I'm kind of getting bored with this, and I kind of want to step it up, but I don't know what to do, and I don't know if I'm ready for a full marathon yet. I don't think I could do 26 miles. So he goes, well, hey, why don't you come on out? I started running in the mountains, and I think you'll like it. And I thought, all right, I'll give it a try. So he took me out, and our first trail run was with John Stewart with us. We started at Rainbow, and we ran up, the switchback's right there, and it was going to hit the shoreline. And not even a half a mile into that, I thought I was going to die.
Because for people who aren't familiar with it, when you're in Rainbow Gardens in Ogden and you go up to the shoreline, it's a little grunt to get up to the trail. It's some gnarly little switchbacks, especially if you're not used to any type of going uphill.
That's exactly it. I had nothing. I was totally flat-footed. I was flat ground. Everything was flat. I didn't know there was an incline anywhere. This killed me. And well, John Stewart alone right there will tell you, he set a hard pace as it is. And I'm not about to, be lagged behind. They're not going to leave me behind in this mountain where I don't even know where I am. I'm not familiar with their trails, even though civilization, if you just turn your head, it's right there. So we get about 3 miles up, and I am just completely drenched in sweat. I'm huffing and puffing, and I literally felt like I was going to die. And at that moment, I thought, this is not for me.
Where's my treadmill? Where's my track?
I think I'm going to get back on the road. This is just not going to work out right.
And do you know about what year that was, or how many years ago maybe?
My gosh. So I'm thinking I started 2012.
Okay.
Yeah, it's 2012.
Okay. Because
I started a little bit of trail running then at the beginning of the summer. It was the beginning of the summer. So at least I had good weather. At least, that helped out. I had actually worked up enough nerve to start training for a full marathon at that time. So, and that was in San Francisco, but it was a road run.
Okay.
But I was, dabbling on the trails and stuff, and, just having a great friend out there to motivate me to just keep at it and not give up, slow down the pace a little. That was a little bit of a tough initiation run right there, but I wasn't about to back down. I didn't want to be, a pansy or anything. Wanted to show him I could do it. I'm strong. I can do this. Well, Forrest actually introduced me to all you guys, and I got involved with this fantastic group. And with that, I just dove right in head first and pretty much kissed my road running days goodbye for a little while, because I had so much fun getting out on the trails. It's liberating.
Well, I think that's the first time I met you was up Wheeler Creek, and you were running, I think, with Forrest.
Yes.
And I don't remember if I was, but most likely with Joel, let's face it. And I think we were coming back, and I think that's the first time we met you. And Forrest we just got her into trail running and da-da-da-da. So I think that's the first time that we met you is on a trail.
Yes,
so
I believe so. In fact, that's where I met everybody, was on a trail.
Yeah. Well,
and then we just built our relationships from there.
And me and Joel talk about it all the time on the shows, and I'm not pigeonholing, but maybe I am a little bit. People that are on the trails a lot they just seem friendlier.
They are.
Right?
They are.
Easier to talk to, and they're not afraid to stop and say hello, or sometimes maybe people that run in different ways, right?
Yes.
They don't chat maybe as much.
Right.
On
exactly
average.
Right.
On
That's
average,
exactly
let's say
right.
that.
I have met the best people on the trail. Everybody I pass says hi or something. And still to this day, even after, what's it been, 3, 4 years? 5? Oh my gosh, 5 years.
Yeah,
Holy cow.
Yeah.
Let's do the math. I'm tired. I have never met a disgruntled runner on the trail. It's truly a great experience.
Yeah.
Great.
And that's it's interesting too, because me and Joel, anytime we know you, but anytime we have a guest on, we like to do a little ultra sign up stalking, right? So we're like, all right, what are they about? Even if we know you. And it was interesting for me, and also at the same time, I was pretty excited, but I wanted to run up and make sure. Your first trail race was the Northern Utah Trail Series, or the Nuts Half Marathon in 2010 is what I have.
Yeah.
So...
Oh, gosh, 2010.
Yeah, 2010.
So, I was wrong about my date of actually really getting on the trail.
That's good. That's good, though.
Almost 7 years then.
You still feel fresh.
Holy cow, so much time's gone by. Look how much fun I'm having.
I know, you don't even know.
No.
Yeah. 2010. So, 2010, the Nuts Half, and that was a tough course for a half marathon. And we run into people on the trail all the time that say, oh, you need to bring that race back because I want to better my time. Or, we loved the course, but due to some permit and land issues, we can't run that course right now.
Right.
But it was kind of neat to see that was your first trail run, and it was a half marathon. And since then, though, you've just loaded up on races.
I have.
It's been some years, but you've done every distance at the Antelope Island, the 25K, the 50K, the 50 mile, and the 100 mile. You've run Moab Red Hot, El Vaquero, Bryce 50, Speed Goat, which I think if anybody knows about Speed Goat, it is a bugger.
Man.
Antelope Canyon, Capitol Reef, which we've had some stories about, and then, of course, Pony Express. Right. And those are just some. I mean, there's definitely more that you've participated in.
Right.
But one of the stories Joel had to make sure that I got out of you, because you've been on the island. You run on the island. You're close to the island where you're at.
Yeah.
You've been charged by a bison out there.
Oh, reliving a nightmare. And this happened 3 years ago, and I'm still not over it.
Really?
Still not over it. And it's subconscious. It brings on, I see one, and it brings on an instant panic attack.
Like anxiety, huh?
It does. And my breathing fluctuates. I know this, and I try to control it, but I get any closer to them than like even 10 feet away. I see them. I'm freaking out.
Yeah. Do you watch Dances with Wolves since then, like the movie?
Yeah.
Stay away from that.
Stay away.
So tell us a story. So you're on the island. Was it during a race? Was it training? Okay, so you're
it was
racing.
My first 100 out there.
Okay.
So I mean, I just had a stellar morning already. Everything was going right. I was strong. I was 30 miles in. I hit Lower Prairie, so I was heading to the ranch, and I was on cloud nine because I felt so good. This far in the race, I'm going to kill it. This is my time to shine. I was proud of myself, and I had all the support there. Hit Lower Prairie. Just as I'm leaving Lower Prairie. Now, granted, up to this point, I haven't had an encounter yet. You see them from a distance, but I had people around me. It was no bother. And, you're always told, don't be aggressive around them. You know, they'll leave you alone. And then...
She says,
yeah. Right. Leave them alone. That was not a problem. So I leave Lower Prairie. I'm out running on my own, because usually by that time there's not a lot of 100-milers that are running.
Yeah.
So we get pretty spaced out after, the first 25 miles even. So leaving and I'm on my own. Well, this herd is off to the side, just on the right-hand side. And I come up to it and I slowed down. I didn't stop and walk, but I slowed down and I was just kind of looking at them. Nobody was looking at me. There was probably like 20 of them right there. I thought, this is all right. I won't make eye contact. I can't see them. They can't see me. Right. Well, all of a sudden, I'm running along and just my peripheral, I see one just turn around and all of a sudden, I don't know. He snorted fire. Serious. He snorted fire and he took off and he was coming right to me. I stood there frozen for it felt like 3-5 minutes. I don't know what it was, but it had to been just seconds because I had to react instantly. So, what am I going to do? I can't run this way because there's more buffalo or bison over there. So I looked around and I went to the road. There's a car right on the road and there's a person standing out the car. I will just fly in the passenger seat and will be protected. Well, in the meantime, I'm looking behind me. This buffalo is gaining on me. I'm 30 miles in a race. The fatigue caught up to me that instant. Yeah. I'm going, I'm not going to be able to keep this up. So I've got the buffalo, and I thought, okay, what can I do? He's big. I'm going to zigzag. He can't be agile. He may be fast, but he can't be agile. So I'm zigzagging. I can't even imagine what I looked like from afar, And this guy down at this car, what's he thinking? What's going on? Well, I am zigzagging. This buffalo zigzagged with me. That is the first time I realized they're not only fast, they're very, very agile. Very, very.
And determined.
Yes, and determined. And I keep looking behind me, and he's getting closer and closer. And I'm thinking, do I just put my hand out on his forehead? Is that going to stop him? Or what do I do? Nobody told me what to do or how to react if I ever chased by a buffalo. Never in my life dreamed I would be chased by a buffalo. So I'm probably, I would say maybe, 40 feet from this car. I literally was going to dive in this car. I had that plan. If I would make it, if this bison wasn't going to flip me up over his head, he was that close. Well, a runner was coming back toward me and he was waving his arms and I'm thinking, is he trying to get my attention? Can't you see what's going on here? I don't have time for this. But with him hollering and waving his arm, he got the buffalo. I actually watched it, reared up, turned around, and walked back.
Holy cow.
So, leisurely walked back. I stopped in that instant, and I just bent over because I thought I was going to throw up. I couldn't believe what just happened. But you know what? just like everything else. You pick yourself up and you move on. I gave it a wide berth, and I did not get back on the trail for quite some time. But eventually, once I got around the rocks over there, I went back on the trail and motored along after that.
And you still had, 70 miles to go or so?
Yeah, yeah.
Through the night?
That was horrible. Oh, my gosh.
Night? That's crazy because the reason I'm laughing is because I have an experience with a buffalo out there too.
Oh, I didn't know this.
Yeah, a lot of people don't. Jim Skaggs is the race director, and one day he asked me to come out and do a run with him. And at that time, he'd purchased a couple buffalo because they sell them at the end of this, I don't know, some season, and you can buy them and eat them, basically.
Oh, okay.
So he got a couple, and he had to leave them on the island to feed them because they just had some shots or something. He's like, why don't you run with me, and then afterwards you can help me feed my buffalo, right? And I'm like, oh, all right, right on. That's pretty neat because they were little. They weren't big. They're buffalo, little right? So we get done with our run, and it was one of those days on the island. It's super foggy, okay, first of all. So it's creepy foggy, but these buffalo, these two bison, were in a pen that was like shaped like an hourglass, big on one end, tapered, and big again.
Okay.
And there were two of them in there. He's like, okay, we got to, break up the ice because it was frozen and it was, fog and everything. We got to break up the ice so we can give them water. And then we'll feed them. I'm like, okay, that sounds pretty good. Well, I didn't know we had to get inside the pen.
Oh.
And I'm like, I can do this because it's kind of like the rodeo where they have the big, thick fence pipes and they're tall and there's a lot of room between them. So I'm like, I can do this. So we get in there. And he's like, we got to get the other one to the other side. And they're little. They're the babies. And so we're trying to get it over. And it goes into the other side. And he's like, okay, now come over here. And right when he says that, he was about ready to say, but don't walk through the tapered part because you're going to scare them. Of course, I'm still walking through the tapered part. And right then the buffalo lowered its head. I am 10 to 12 feet away from it at this time. And it lowered its head and started running at me. And it's in the fog, so it's creepy anyway. I turn around, start running.
Oh, my God.
And all I could think of was rodeo clown. So I just put one foot on one of the bars, and I don't know, I blacked out. I was on the other side of the fence.
I can relate.
And Jim was laughing his head off at me. He thought it was funny. I'm laying on the ground because my foot slipped because it was icy.
Oh, my God.
And I'm laying there, and my heart's just pounding out of my chest. And Jim's things, well, it's just a little one. And he was funny. I look back now, it's funny, but at the time, it was no humor whatsoever.
No.
And it's not your experience because he was in a pen, so I could get out of the pen. I'm safe, and it was probably smaller, but yeah, they're huge anyway.
They are huge and intimidating.
Yeah.
And, don't believe anything anybody ever says because you've got people coming at you saying, oh, they won't go to the rocks. Guess where I found buffalo? They're in the rocks. Oh, buffalo won't come running down a hill. Well, guess what? 2 weeks ago, I witnessed a buffalo running down a hill. Come on, people. Nobody knows anything about buffalo.
Don't. It's like with any animal. It's like with a bear. Play dead.
Yeah.
And then you hear people don't play dead. It's an easier snack.
Stomp on you. I know. Just tenderize you a little bit before you.
This way. We don't know, right?
No,
They've got brains.
Yes.
We can't tell what they're thinking, just like you can't tell what anybody's thinking.
Yeah.
So just do what you need to do.
Yeah.
Right? Run away and hope you get
Exactly.
past it.
And this whole experience terrified me, but I still go out to the island. I am still running. I may hide behind somebody when I do it and I see a buffalo.
So you don't run out there by yourself?
No, I have not worked up that nerve yet. One day, I am trying to overcome this. I mean, eventually you would think I would overcome it. I'm aware of it, and I've got to because, I've got the whole island 5 minutes away from me. How convenient
that is
it to just drive out there real quick, hit the trail, and then be done. I mean, you've even got Bert out there. You've got Fairy Peak.
Yep.
I've got options.
Yep. And you got buffalo.
I got buffalo.
That's right. And
they just make me
scary.
faster, right?
Yeah, they're just well, I mean, even Jim a few years ago at his race, Earl, which we ended up naming him, smashed the guy into the chain link fence.
That's exactly
but that
right.
guy, I think, had it coming.
Yeah, I heard he was a little bit.
Yeah, I was standing there. He was kind of chucking to get a good picture, no matter what was said.
He was aggravating it. I probably would have done something aggressive like that if the guy was being annoying.
I've done that. Someone thrown a rock at me. I turned around, threw him into a fence.
Right.
Once, yeah. But yeah, so that's a interesting story, and I'm glad everything worked out okay.
Yeah.
But I could see where you wouldn't, like, if someone gave you a stuffed animal for Christmas and it was a buffalo, would you just give it to your dogs?
Yeah, that person would be a fan of mine.
We'll remember that one. So let's jump ahead a little bit because you've run some big races, and some hard races.
Yeah.
And you've done a lot of running, and you're always positive. But let's talk a little bit about what happened at the end of 2016.
Okay.
There was another 100-mile race down in it's in Utah, the Pony Express 100, and this is a race you've run a couple times, right?
Well, once before.
Okay.
So this was the second time I did it. So this was
your second 100-miler at the Pony Express.
Right.
The Pony Express, for those that don't know, it's a 100-mile race in Utah on the Pony Express Trail, the old school delivery Pony Express. It's put on by Davy Crockett.
Right.
And there's no aid stations, right? Or is there just one?
At the halfway mark,
okay.
They've got, because you got the 50-mile race and the 100-mile race out there. So they got a big barbecue at the 50, or, I guess it ends up being the 48-mile marker because they have to do an out and back to finish up the 50. But that's the only one.
So the 100-mile race, you got one.
Right.
And then the rest is you can have a crew, and they can... How does that work with that crew? They can follow you in a car. They can go ahead of you and just set up anywhere they want?
Yep.
Okay.
So you kind of leapfrog with your crew. You plan it out, just like everything you do. You plan it out. You kind of strategize how far you want them to go out, where you want your aid station. So, and you use past experience of past races to kind of know how far you can go before you actually need, water refills or something to eat or something. So, yeah, you kind of just go off that.
And you can probably even change midstream, too, if you're, feeling really good. It's like, what, give me 7 miles, or, oh, man, I'm going to need you in 2.
And in the nighttime,
yeah,
1 mile. A lot of people do that.
Really?
That is something I'll share with later when we get more involved on how that race went. But that's one of my biggest strategies, was trying not to see my crew as often as most people did. So
that's a good strategy.
But it's nice to know that they're out there. And, you can't get lost out there.
Yeah. It's pretty straight trail, right?
Yeah, it's pretty
straight. You're not going to get lost.
Yeah, it's not that intimidating.
And so, we'll jump ahead a little bit, and then we'll go back to the race. But
sure.
Your second time doing the race.
Right.
It's a 100-mile race, and you were the first place female.
I was.
Not only that, which is phenomenal, you were 6th overall.
I was.
So that's pretty sweet. And a time of 23:18, so sub 24.
Right.
And I imagine somewhere, which we might get to, might have been a goal, right? Sub 24 seems to be this magic number in a lot of races.
The goal for the ending time was actually the only goal I had.
Okay.
Up until halfway through the race, and then things changed at that point.
Well, let's get a play-by-play. So Pony Express, were you planning on running the Pony Express last year?
No.
Okay.
This was totally last minute. Bear came, ate me up, spit me out again. One day, that is going to be my race. But I took a few days to recover. That next Saturday, I was out there doing mail-ins, and I ran 70 miles in the Bear, and I went out and did mail-ins that weekend, and I felt great. I thought, I dedicated my whole training for the Bear. I was climbing all the time. I had, just so much vert on my legs. It wasn't just miles. I had strategy this year. This was my race. This was going to be it this year. I wouldn't have to sign up again. But it didn't happen. Just, several factors came into play. And so I thought, after the Bear, like everybody else, you kind of pout for a little while. But I knew I had something in me, and I knew I had to prove something to myself. Yeah. And I thought, I have one more chance at this. And the Pony Express, it ended up being 4 weeks this time, right after the Bear, three weeks.
Mid to end of October.
Right. So I thought, I can do it. I need to do it. I need to prove something to myself. I need to know that, all this training that I did isn't going to be wasted. I worked so hard this year, and I was so proud of myself. And I thought, no, I can't do it. Why? Why would I want to do this? 100 milers, regardless of where you're at.
Still 100 miles.
Yes. They're not fun.
No.
Excuse me. It's a challenge.
Yeah.
You're miserable. But it's the afters that is so gratifying. So it was probably, actually I signed up 2 weeks before the race. I ended up just digging in and said, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do this for me. I'm not going to tell anybody, because this is my goal. I want to prove something to myself. I want to know that I can still finish. It ate me up. I'm not going to lie. The Bear ate me up again, and it just, kind of disheartened me. I was so strong this year, and it wasn't my legs that gave out. It was other things, and I had so much in me. So 2 weeks right before the race, I signed up, and didn't give it another thought. I didn't even sit on it. I didn't dwell on it. I just knew I was going to do it. I planned out. I even told Steve, who's fantastic, who's been there. His support is unbelievable. Been there every single race I've had. But I told him, I said, I don't want to hardly see you. I don't want an out. I want to I'm going to just stare down at the ground, focus, and I'm just running. And that's all I want to do. So race day came, and I was very optimistic about it. And the only goal I set was that I wanted to do it in a sub 24. And I knew I could. I believed in myself this time. I think this is the first and only race that I actually had extra confidence and just belief that I could do this.
Nice.
So I had my friend Jim Skaggs out there too. And, he's a great partner to run with. And just his motivation and his belief in me as well just kind of, helped seal the deal. I can do this. I can do it. So, but that was my only goal, because this is a personal goal. It wasn't anything other than I'm an average runner. Never dreamed of actually placing in a race at all, ever. But I just never really had that goal. I love being out there. I love running. I love running with people. I'm not a huge fan of running on my own. I do it.
Yeah.
But I mean, even this year with training for the Bear, I even got out in the dark by myself. I mean, this is huge.
Not
this
on the
is so out of my box. Not on the island. This is so far out of my box. So I overcame so much this year that's why I needed to prove to myself that I could do this. So going into this race, I had just a different vision on what this race was. I had no intimidation, no anxiety over it at all.
Wow.
I mean, it was the first race of all these races that I actually went in it feeling so great.
And why do you think, I mean, how did you do that? I mean, how do you think that happened though? Because that's not easy to do.
No.
Right?
No.
I mean, what changed, or what did you do differently to make you have so much belief and so much determination on that?
This was my third time at the Bear that I didn't finish. And when I didn't finish, like I said, it wasn't due to like severe muscle fatigue or anything.
Well, it was those that we've talked about this race on some other shows. Yeah. This was a horrible year for the race, though. I mean, the weather, awful. It was the nasty bear, the bear apocalypse. There's been a lot of names for it, but it was just not good conditions at all.
Temperatures were dropping, dropped. We were wet the whole entire time, and I commend those that finished. I mean, that's an incredible feat, and I admire every single person that did. I lost my core temperature. It dropped, and do you know what? When that happens for me, my head goes south, and I'll admit that it got to me. I could not get warm, and when I stopped at that last aid station, I was shaking so bad I couldn't overcome it. But it wasn't because my legs were giving up. I still had strength. I still had that, but my mind was just thinking I still had 30 more miles left. I can't stop shaking. I can't get dry. I'm out of dry clothes as it is, socks wise. It was just a lot of negativity, and oh my gosh, it was just miserable. It was miserable. And, I wanted to live to race again. Yeah, there you go. Basically.
That's a good goal.
That's kind of what it was. So with that in mind, I came home, licked my wounds, kind of pouted for a little while, but that was my turning point right there because of how I felt when I actually did quit that time. It wasn't because of any kind of physical ailment, muscle fatigue, nothing. I had the training in me. I had the skills. I have the experience. I have the knowledge, and that's what drove me.
Been on the course before, so you knew what was going to happen.
Yes, that's what drove me. And I was determined this time. I knew I could do it, and I just kept telling myself, I know I can do it. I know I can do it. That was my turning point. That was a big turning point for me.
Yeah, and it's so you go in with a sub 24 goal, and you've run the race before.
Right.
So did you have it pretty much mapped out in your mind and on paper? Okay, I need to be here by this time. I'm not going to use a crew until this point. I mean, was it pretty much you had it dialed in there?
Yeah. So let me preface this. My last Pony Express, I did it in 28 hours. Okay. So I'm having to take 4 hours off a 100-mile race. That's
That's pretty big.
That's a lot.
That's big. That's big.
So, you would have thought that might have, given me a little bit of anxiety and kind of second guess myself. Is this being a little bit too aggressive of a goal? And, kind of infuriate me in a way, and make it disheartening if I can't get it and just kind of come down on myself again. But it didn't. I didn't care. I was going to do it. I'm doing it this time. So I went in there. Jim, again, he's amazing at pace charts.
He's an engineer. He loves spreadsheets.
Yes.
And he's our resident nerd, right, Jim?
Man,
Right.
totally. I am hiring him every single race because it was feasible. I looked at this chart and I said, I can do that. I can do that. And I was determined that I know how far I could go without having crew. And as long as I didn't see that face to make me want to sit and chat for a while, I knew I could keep going and take off a lot of time. That's where I kind of fell back, was spending, a lot of time in aid stations and stuff and kind of getting my breath. And I realized, I'm so fit. I just felt so confident of my strength this year that I knew I could just buzz through.
Nice.
So I strategized after looking at this pace chart, which I just got, a couple of days before the race even. This was all last minute stuff. I mean, signing up for it.
That's how you should always go into a 100-mile race. It's just kind of last minute. Throw it together. Throw your bags together. Throw your food in there. You just need a pair of shoes.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it was a whole new world and a whole new experience for me. And look at what it did. It played out just fine.
You didn't dwell on it. You didn't think about it, right?
Right.
The mental part of it.
Exactly. And, I was a little worried when we were heading there to the start line because it was 15 degrees in some areas.
Wow, that's balmy.
The desert got cold.
Yeah.
And I thought, holy crap, it's the bear all over again.
Flashbacks.
Why doesn't it ever work out for me? So I thought, nope, that's not going to get me down. It's all right. I'll overcome. I'll start running. I'm feeling great. Well, there was no wind, so that helped. So once we got to the start line, it did warm up a little bit. We're in the dark. We had a 6 a.m. start. Started out, there was actually quite a few people. Everybody was so upbeat and so happy. I mean, it just exhilarates you.
Energizes
Gets
you
you
big time.
excited, gets you warm, gets you going, and you chat a little ways as you get warmed up. And so we're going, and then before I know it, my gosh, the sun's coming up. Oh my gosh, I'm shedding another layer. Oh my gosh, I have to wake up Steve. I'm coming up. I need water refill. It's just, things went so fast. I always have to look back and really kind of take it apart because the whole race flew by. Literally. I mean, it just flew by. I've never ran one so fast.
Well, you PR'd by over 4 hours.
Yeah.
That's a
4
big deal.
hours.
That's not just a little PR.
No.
That's a lot to take
Yeah.
off, especially coming from where you were just a few weeks before that,
Exactly.
Mentally.
Exactly.
Because it does break your spirits when things don't go the way you want them to.
It does. It really
so for
does.
you to turn around that quickly, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
with that race, did things, like you said, it went by fast. Did things just feel right during that run?
The first 48 miles, yes. Everything about that felt fantastic. And then I felt something squishy between my toes. And I thought, oh, no, don't let this break me. So we, at that point, when, the big barbecue place, and of course, everything smells really good, I had to sit down and, fix some things. I thought, this isn't going to break me. This isn't going to break me. Hurried and got that all done. Had some, something to eat, to energize, get going again. One of the other goals I did have is that I wanted to be back at that point before dark. So once you leave that Black Rock, which is almost the halfway mark, you go and do an out and back to Fish Haven.
Okay.
And, before I came back and it was totally dark, but this year I knew if I could stay on track with the pace chart that we needed to do it by dark. But, I'm trying not to watch my watch too closely. I don't want to get discouraged. I don't want to think, oh, great, we've got to make up this time. And I don't want to have that stress and anxiety because really, I know I can do this and I just need to let it play out. It'll come. It'll all work out. So I did tank probably around mile 55, but I think everybody goes through a mental block.
Yeah.
At somewhere in the point when you still have so many miles to go, I had a little falling out between mile 55 and 62. But I didn't stop. I overcame, got a little more food in my stomach. And, before that I was having stomach troubles. And so that was kind of making me tank mentally too. And I thought, I've got to overcome this. I did have a few things I had to overcome. But I was so determined. I was so strong still. I felt great. My legs felt great. My mind, I needed to keep it in there. And I thought, I could be strong enough with that too. I can make this work this time. It's not going to break me. So after mile 62, I lost some time. I fell behind the pace chart going out to Fish Haven. And when I left Fish Haven, that was our turnaround point to go back. I saw a couple of girls behind me, and that actually spurred me on right there.
Okay, so stop right. Did you know you were the first female at that time?
No, because it was hard to, there are multiple times that you start. So there was an 8 o'clock start, and there were some fast girls in that 8 o'clock start. So, you don't pass somebody and say, hey, what time did you start?
Gotcha.
Let's worry about it. I just kind of figured, and in my mind, that they were an 8-hour start. I wanted to be pushed. All I knew at this point is that there's 2 girls right behind me.
Gotcha.
So, and I wanted to keep them behind me, regardless of, at least I could have some kind of opportunity to be close to, the top with that.
Because you had to know going in, if you went sub 24, history says you would be near the first few, right? So that was kind of like a secondary goal, but it's tied with the first goal.
Right. That's exactly right. But, I wasn't paying attention. I know, I was passing people left and right the whole first part of the race. Things were coming together, and then I, of course, tanked. But when I ended up going out, those girls, they were walking too. They were having a little bit of struggle. Nighttime was coming, dark was coming. And I thought, we're all kind of in the same boat right now. Maybe I can try. Maybe I have something. Maybe if I dug a little deeper. I did it. I dug deep and actually made up time the next 20 miles.
Wow.
I made up all that time I lost. And it was inspirational. And then I got paranoid, because then I kept looking behind me and I wanted to keep this distance. And I had a taste of competition for the first time. I've always accepted that I was an average middle of the pack runner, but I had a taste of it this time, and it tasted so good. And I thought, I have a chance to make a difference. And even if it's not, I never thought first place. That never crossed my mind. But I thought I could be up there with those really fast girls and, make something of myself, and not just have this personal goal of being sub 24. I have this opportunity to be great. It was exciting, and it spurred me on even faster. I would probably tell you that in that race, 95% I actually ran.
Wow.
95% of that
so
race.
That's 95% of 100 would be 95 miles.
Exactly.
See how I did the math there?
It's very good.
So,
But that race just, that changed my whole outlook on running. I've always loved to run. And I've always loved running in the mountains and on trails. It's your opportunity to disconnect.
Yeah.
It's liberating. I feel free, and I get the chance to relax and put all the anguish and the stressors of everyday life just behind me for a short time, just so I can collect myself and renew my strengths. So many things happen to me when I can get out there in the mountain and enjoy the beauty in front of me, and even stop to smell the roses along the trail. Not just totally focus on just training. You've got to remember to enjoy it out there, and it rejuvenates me. I wouldn't trade it in. That's why I think I'm always happy out there, because of the things it does to me.
Yeah, and we're definitely gonna get to that part for sure, because that's a lot of the stuff. But so tell me the very last part, maybe the last. At what point did you say, I know I'm sub 24.
Right.
I know I'm up there. Quotes
Right.
with my fingers you can't see. When did that kind of sink in? And then I want to know how you felt when you did cross the finish line and found out your time and found out you were the first female.
Right. So, it was probably the last 15, 20 miles. We were leapfrogging a few people, the guys. I hadn't seen a female. Female has not passed me. We were leapfrogging guys. So that was kind of, again, a motivation right there. But it was frequent that we saw their car stopping, and it seemed like it went down to 3 miles, down to every 2 miles. And then eventually, around midnight, God, we were seeing cars, the same car every mile for these runners. And I thought, I'm still having Steve go 6 to 8 miles out. So because I don't have to stop
so much.
Yeah, I was gaining time. And finally, the last 10 miles, I was still going, and these guys were getting behind me because they kept stopping. Yeah. There was times toward the end that Steve would have a bowl of soup, and I would walk by him, grab the soup, and keep going. I never stopped. And of course, I'd walk a little ways and try to eat the soup. And with the race, I'll have to backtrack a minute. When you have crew, they can't drive alongside of you. Yeah. You can't do anything out the window. You actually leapfrog with them, so they actually have to pull up in front of you, come to a complete stop, and then give you aid. So that's what we did. I getting all my soup down. Steve came up probably 10 minutes after I'd get my soup all done. He'd go up a little ways, pull off. I'll start running to him. Give him my bowl. We have to come to a complete stop. Yeah. Give him my bowl. Get everything all taken care of, which took less than a minute, and then I was off again. So I had this spur. I mean, I was on fire. It felt great. I was exhausted. Don't get me wrong, but I was just invigorated. I mean, things are coming to an end. I think I saw the lights of the finish line. I've got a couple of headlamps behind me. I still don't think those are girls, but darn it, I'm not going to wait here and find out. I'm going to keep going. And so getting closer and closer to that time, that finish line, I kept looking behind me. It was like I kept seeing these headlamps, and darn it, they're not passing me. I have worked so hard for this. You are not going to pass me. Well, there at the end, you turn left and you go down. Gosh, I think it's like a half a mile. It feels like 10 miles because it's your last half mile, to close. The finish line, because you see them waiting down there for you, and it doesn't seem to get any closer. But it was, and it's technical. That sucks too, because after that many miles, the last thing you want to do is have to worry about twisting
stuff.
Yeah,
so you're kind of in that groove.
Yeah. So I'm flying down, and all of a sudden, the emotion hit me. And I knew for sure I was well below the 24. That whole emotion came.
Just smacked you in the face.
That's exactly what happened. I wanted to cry. I wanted to scream. I wanted to laugh. I didn't know quite what emotion to grasp onto, because it was something that I never dreamed that I could ever have that accomplished. I never wanted to, really, because I didn't believe in myself ever, I guess, that much to think that would happen. But it was right there, and I did it, and I did it for me. Yeah. And it felt wonderful, and I didn't push myself to the point to where I felt broken. I was still, does that make sense?
Yeah, you're comfortable.
Yes, I was still able to enjoy it and still be healthy, and I was fatigued, don't get me wrong, but I didn't have these, severe pains or anything. I felt that just helped me.
Felt whole.
That's it. And that's huge. Yeah. And that to me just told me again, you were strong enough to be able to do this. You did an amazing thing, and I was so proud. I wanted to scream at the top of my lungs. I wanted to hug everybody when I saw them. I see them right there. I've got 20 feet, I've got 10 feet, and I've got 5 feet. And I said, I don't know who to hug first, but I'm coming in. Watch out.
Who's first? Line up.
I mean, it was exhilarating. It went so fast. And even still, across the finish line, and as tired as one is, the whole race flew by. I had to actually just sit down and I can't believe we're done already. I've never had this moment like this to where, oh my gosh, what did I just do? So, and there was one other person in there, and I'm thinking, oh, this is exciting. But it wasn't at that time that I found out that I was close. I was close to the top, but they said, well, there's one girl not too far out behind you that she started at 8, and she actually probably will have you beat if she stays strong. And I said, you know what? That's okay. I did sub 24. Do you know what that is?
And
you know what that means?
Great, and you were excited.
Yeah, it didn't matter. And I was so thrilled that I had this goal, and I did it this time. I mean, it was just consuming. And, you know, I did, when I tanked over at Fish Haven, I sat in the truck for a second and told Steve, I said, this is my last one. I'm done. I am
Dropping
done.
the mic. I'm done.
Yeah. I no more 100. I'll get through this one. I will get through this and I will finish this one, but I'm done. No more hundreds. I love 50s. I love 50Ks.
Yeah.
I still love racing. I love where they take us, all these new places. I'm done with these hundreds. And then I get done. And then it wasn't until later that morning, you know, once we got home, that I got the text from Davey and said, hey, guess what? You actually took first. I read that and I looked at Steve and I said, how would you feel if maybe I said maybe I wasn't quite done?
Maybe I changed my mind on that drive.
This was too exciting. I had a goal this time. I did it and I felt great, and see where it takes me. I don't know. I don't have too many more in my future, but you know, I have a few more.
Yeah. I mean that's kind of the whole thing, and there's different reasons people race. Right? I mean, some people don't race at all. They love trail running, but they don't race for one reason or another. Some people race because their friends running. Sometimes they race because of where the race is located. Maybe it's a time thing.
Yep.
You know, I mean, a few people, I mean, not say few, but there's people out there that race for first place. I mean, that's a whole different realm than what I'm ready for.
Right.
But when you do have that, what you just explained, now, folks, you're not here. So you can't see when you can hear the excitement in her voice, but just see her face light up and the smile. I mean, this is real, and this is why, this is the reason you should do it, right? What she's talking about is for yourself, right? Just that whole intrinsic experience where you have a goal, because you're not going to hit your goal every time.
No.
In fact, most of the time you don't. Realistically, it's hard. Because there's so many variables like the weather, injuries, things like that. But
or an off day.
An off day.
It just may be an off day.
The heat.
Yes.
Food.
Yeah.
You know, a buffalo.
Yeah.
Charge. Bison. So when it does come together, because there's, people out there have had that one race.
Yeah.
Whether you've PR'd, whether it's a time goal, but you have that one race, and that's what kind of keeps you coming back.
Yeah.
It's not always there's the races where you feel defeated, like I didn't accomplish it, I'm going back next year because I want to do it. But when you have everything come together and you have that huge emotional feeling like she's talking about right now, it just makes everything fit.
Yep.
It just makes it like, okay, that's why.
That's exactly right.
That's the feeling.
And just like you said, everything about that day came together.
And that's rare.
Yeah.
It really, even for the
Extremely.
quote-unquote elite athletes, that's rare.
Exactly. And, all my other future races, I don't want to make people think that, oh, my gosh, this is going to give me a big head. It's not. If I race again, it's not with the anticipation that I'm this great runner now and, get this epiphany, I can do anything. That's not it. It's because I've figured out with myself that I've finally got confidence that I can do things for myself and, do great things for myself. I don't expect to ever do something like this again. I really don't. But if the stars are aligned right, everything works out on that day, that is a fantastic thing.
But you have to put yourself in that position. I mean, like you mentioned, you were trained. I mean, I know you put in probably your best year of training ever.
I did.
So it wasn't like it was just you lucked into the perfect day. You earned it. You worked for it.
Yeah.
But the things that you can't control, the weather,
right?
Rolling an ankle on a rock, whatever it might be, the things you can't control didn't come up.
Right.
And then when they started to, it's that mental side of things that got you back on track.
Right.
I don't care. You can talk to the people winning every race to the back of the pack person. The mental game is huge. I mean, it's probably still to me one of the biggest things, even the physical thing's obvious, but the mental thing you have to have a grasp of.
Right.
But the physical thing, you have to put yourself in position to do well.
Right.
Right? And if you don't train well enough to go sub 24, you can't expect to go sub 24.
That's exactly right.
And if you don't train, if you're not ready physically, you really don't have a chance to do these things. But you put that in play.
Yeah.
And it sounds like it's that whole mental shift. Like you said, you believed in yourself. And I have it in here, Nuts Half Marathon 2010. And it was 2016. So it was like 6 years of buildup on the trail. And you kind of found that I believe in myself after you just got, like you said, eaten and chewed up by the bear.
Yeah. It took a long time to get to this point. I just, my whole life I've always had, low self-esteem, low confidence, and I don't know, something just I turned a corner. And
do you think running has given, because you just mentioned that, and that's something kind of just off the cuff. Do you think running has helped with those things, like you say about low self? Do you think running has helped with gaining that?
And I'm not just saying just for given times or anything on a race, just completing a race has turned my whole outlook of life and how I feel about myself. And I've come out of a shell. I'm more social. Having our Hummer group, I'm more social. Well, that's been the biggest change in my whole entire life.
The first few times
those wonderful people.
First few times I'd met you or came at con, you were so quiet, and even when you would talk, it would be like what was that? I'm sorry.
So painfully shy.
Yeah, but it has noticed, and like I said, last year your training was off the charts. I mean, because we have mutual friends, and you're on the trail. And it's like, wow, she is putting in the work. But yeah, I mean, you definitely saw your confidence.
Yes.
In a social area. I mean, I don't know the whole rest of the ball game, but I mean, that's kind of interesting to discuss, because I think I've talked to different people as well. That's like, man, running's given me confidence. Yep. And again, it's not, I'm not winning a race, but it's given me confidence because 5 years ago, I weighed this and I was eating this and I was so unhealthy. And now I'm like, wow, I feel good about this and that.
That's it. I'm breaking limits. I'm doing it for personal satisfaction. And that's what my running's always been about, is personal satisfaction. I'm doing these personal feats. I'm not much of a competitive person. This was so exciting, and I kind of looking back, I can't believe I was driven that much, really. But just the whole aspect. Running has done amazing things. Like you said, I feel physically fit. I've even in my younger years, I've never felt this good. It's an amazing thing. And just the whole experience on, I still do road runs.
That's all right.
I've gotten back into that every now and then.
We'll let it slide.
For a couple of years, I totally gave it up. But now, I kind of get out there just because sometimes it's a little easier just to head out. But I decompress out there. I'm an easier person to get along with if I can continue to run. I process things. I de-stress a little bit and kind of able to look at things in a different manner and not take life so seriously.
Well, speaking of that, one of the things that you are known for, and I'm sure you know this, but if you don't, here you go. A lot of people that know you, and me and Joel have been talking about this and prefacing this show being launched. We were saying, we got her coming on, and you are like one of the most genuinely nice people out there. Like positive, genuinely nice people. And how do you maintain that positive mentality? Like you said, with some setbacks you've had, and we'll touch those real quick, but what's your scheme? What's your game? Why are you so nice? Why are you so positive all the time?
Wow.
Stumping you?
Yeah, that really is. People have told me that, but I seriously, I don't know what to contribute that to. All I can say is that it's running. I mean, it seriously is. I've decompressed. I've let loose. I've let my hair down. It's allowed me to be happy. I'm able to approach things easier. I process things easier. Going out there running into great people, they're happy and they're smiling. It just feeds off me to make somebody feel good and smile. I feed off that emotion, and it feels so good. And I can't help but be smiley and happy all the time, and support everybody in what they do. I find it's the greatest thing for people to get out of their comfort zone. It excites me. It thrills me because I get the same way when I get out of my comfort zone. Yeah. That's what keeps me going. All these limits I'm breaking, it just adds more and more to my confidence. Over these past years, that's what I've contributed to. I've become a new person, and I like this person that I am. And I think because of that, I'm able to,
shine it back.
Yeah, give it back. Because of what I've got from it. It's got to be it. That's a tough one that's all I can say. I'm happy out there.
Because let's be honest, you've dealt with some pretty difficult times, right? With some injuries you've had that have lasted, whether it was like, I think you had a foot, leg, hip.
Yeah, I had 2 stress fractures back to back. That was so frustrating.
So you're doing all this training and you're racing the bear, like you said, 3 times and you haven't finished. I mean, how do you struggle like that? Let's say that.
Yeah.
And how do you keep positive with that? I mean, because injuries are devastating to people because you train hard and something you can't control happens and you're like, okay, I got to come back. And then you lose all that fitness and then you got to start all over again.
That is the hardest thing to do.
It is. I'm doing it right now. And then how do you stay that upbeat and how do you stay so positive when you're dealing with injury and not finishing a bear and some other things that have happened? How do you stay positive like that?
Well, so I've had 2 stress fractures, and that was kind of earlier in my trail running time, where I was still new to everything. That was, I think, those times were the hardest than the injuries that I go through now. I'm back then. Things were hard. That frustrated me. I almost wanted to disconnect from everything because I felt like my world just came tumbling down. Here I was just trying to get into something that was so exciting and a part of a great group that makes me happy and smile. And all of a sudden I've got this stress fracture. I can't run. I can hardly walk. And now I don't get to be involved. And I just like that feeling of, camaraderie. I love going out and just being a part of it all. That's what makes me so happy. But I think what took me through that is because I didn't want to lose that. And I knew getting through this injury, eventually I was going to get back to that point. And I had great people that still text me, kept me involved mentally with everybody. And, having that support, Debbie Farka, I love her to death. She has always been there to get me through the tough times and just feed me to tell me that, it's going to be okay. It's going to be over soon. It's not a forever thing. For Stuart, same thing. I run with those guys a lot. They were so supportive, and just having all this support and all these friends, that's what got me through it.
It's almost like you're not doing it by yourself at that point. You're not carrying that burden or that
never
injury.
by myself. So I have to give everybody else credit for getting me through it, and all of us coming together to help people with injuries and let them know we're not forgetting you.
Yeah.
This is just a little bit of time you need to take rest, do other things maybe, clean the house for once now that you have time or something. But, it's just, I didn't do it alone. I can never take that kind of credit. But having where you still feel wanted and that you still feel loved, it just
makes it easier.
Makes it so much easier. And, I like to be fit. So when I did have those injuries, I was still finding other ways to keep active. And I think that's a big thing too. I wasn't idle.
Yeah.
I was still finding ways to keep active. And so that engaged my mind to know that, there's a light at the end of the tunnel. I'm going to get back to it. I can do this. I can overcome.
And it makes it that much sweeter, don't you think?
Exactly.
When you do overcome that and you hit your next milestone or your next finish, whether it's like you did or just finishing overall, you're thinking, oh, yeah, I got through that, right? And it helps for the next time.
Exactly.
Even though it can be frustrating.
Exactly. Yes. You just, you work through them and, hey, you've got time.
So what would you say is your favorite part of trail running? Like what's the part that you love the most?
Favorite part of trail running. So can I tell you about a specific trail and a specific moment? Is
Absolutely.
That kind of...
Well, that was coming up anyway, is
okay.
like what's your favorite?
So
yeah.
I don't know if the trail is actually my favorite, but this one section in this one time of day takes my breath away.
Wow.
But it's usually in more of the spring, summer time. But heading north from Rainbow, and as you're coming back, you're probably about a mile away from the service road before you cross over and go down where that big rock is, where you just get stopped. Well, you come along that expanse to where it's just a very, very gradual decline. But as the sun just starts to rise and the rays that just go over the morning ray, I can't even explain right. It takes my breath away.
Wow.
The emotion involved, the morning rays that come right over that trail, it's like you're bathed in bliss. That has to be my most favorite section of any of the trails. I know it's just a section.
That's all right.
But I live for that. I live for the spring and the summer, to have that moment to cross at that right time, to have the sun rays, the first morning sun rays just bathe me in this hazy light, and it's warming.
Well, and when you say that, the first thing that reminds me of is the morning of a 100-miler.
Yeah.
How you go through that really low part, 3 a.m., 4 a.m., 5 a.m., and then the sun comes out, and it's almost like recharging, like you're solar, and it's recharging you.
Let's get this started. I'm fine now. Yeah, I run off solar panels. I feed off all this sunshine, and I try to hold on to it, and I'm just about through that, and then the sun comes right back out. It's an amazing moment.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
You've done some spectacular places.
Oh, I've been so fortunate.
What's your favorite race course, or maybe even if it's been like a fun run, like a Zion or something? What's your favorite place you've run so far?
El Vaquero.
Oh man,
I can't get over the beauty.
I was gonna have a feeling that might be that, because just that's mine. So
it's just, the wildflowers alone there just takes my breath away.
Yeah.
I love that moment where you go through. I love how hard it is. I love the challenge of it. I love climbing, so there's quite a bit of that. And all the fields that you go to once you're kind of going, to the turnaround point, just coming down and being able to enjoy it because you're not so strenuous at that time. But my gosh, that course just takes my breath away.
That's probably my
the
overall.
lakes.
That's my
yeah.
Well, because this year I've told people before, coming back this year, I was not having anywhere near the race I wanted. I jumped in on the way back the second lake. I jumped in and swam.
Oh my gosh, really?
It was fun.
Oh,
it was still
I can
fun.
imagine.
Like, I don't regret it one bit, even though it absolutely crushed more of my time. But yeah, that's probably one of my favorite. Well, I can't tell you thank you enough for sitting down and talking to us about your experience, not just only with the Pony Express, but just how running has impacted your life. Because I think, we at the end of the year, we sent a thing out to the people that listen to the show, and we said, what do you want more of in 2017? And they said, we want more from average people, like not the people necessarily that run sponsor, that's their job. We want kind of your average runner, people like the everyday people, right?
Right.
And also people that have went through some struggles, whether it's a DNF or whether it's an injury or something like that. And I think, for kicking off 2017, this is exactly what everybody wants to hear, because it when you were in there, when you were speaking, there were things you were saying that I was identifying to.
Oh, that's
personally.
great.
I'm like, oh yeah.
See, and that warms my soul.
I know exactly what you're saying. And I think there's a lot of people out there that will feel the same way.
Good.
Because I don't think the majority of the people out there run to win or run for this. They run for different reasons.
Yes.
But I think at the end of the day, everybody, when they have that day, that you have that feeling that you can kind of look at someone and say, oh, I felt that.
Yeah.
I've been there. Because you were talking and I've had that. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I know right where you're at. And it's just warming that someone else feels the same way.
Yep.
And feels good. So
and maybe can describe it a little bit better. I get kind of tongue-tied a little bit.
I don't know if you can.
Because I've got so much emotion coming out. I mean, these races that I sign up for, I love them. They take me to places I would have never gone before. Yeah. And they take you distances where not even the average person would ever see in their entire lifetime. That alone right there thrills me to death. That I'm seeing stuff most people don't see.
Yep.
It gives me goosebumps.
Well, and I think, like you said again, I think that kind of hits it, is this community of trail running. It doesn't have to be 100-mile races, 50-mile, 50K, just trail running, because I don't know. To me, it just is a certain type of person that trail runs. And I know there's people out there that maybe aren't as friendly as some, and that's just in life. But on the average, when you go out on a trail run, me and Joel went out this morning and ran into people, and everybody was just, hey, how you doing? And I've always said this: you go to a supermarket, you go to a mall, and how many people say hi to you when you walk by?
Yeah.
It's pretty rare. None, if that, right?
Ever.
Unless you got your fly down or
yeah,
something.
exactly.
But other than that, you go on a trail, and it's rare when they don't. In fact, when someone doesn't say hi and you run by them or vice versa, you're kind of like, what's wrong with that person?
What the heck just happened?
I know,
what?
I know. You should be out here.
Yeah, that's always been the biggest thing. The people is just, it's overwhelming how wonderful the people you meet out there. Yeah. It really is.
Well, it's
strangers,
lifelong friendships.
I've never been that way. That was one of the other things. I've never been one to actually go up to a person and just strike up a conversation because of me being painfully shy a lot of the times. But on a trail, I mean, again, I disconnect. I become this new person. Overall, I've become this new person, but it's so easy to approach somebody out there and just start talking. Hi, how are you doing?
It's great. It's fun to hear their stories, don't you think?
I love
because everybody
it.
has a story.
Yes.
Why they're out there, how they came to be there, where they're at in a race. And you never know sometimes, especially when you're racing, I think, when you come up on somebody, whether they pass you, you pass them, or just whatever. Sometimes, and everybody's been there, you have that shift when someone unexpectedly starts talking to you and it changes your mood.
Yes.
Right? You're in a bad place, you're not in the best, and they come up and, sometimes you're like, oh, why is that person so happy?
Yeah.
I'm going to trip you and kick you. And then like a mile later, like, man, that saved my race or saved my run.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I think in general, that's pretty much it. And I mean, you epitomize to me and a lot of people, you epitomize what trail running should be, is just that happy, genuine, what's the word? There's just so many words, but you're just happy and you're positive, and you shine that on other people when you're out on the trail. And to me, that's what this whole trail running thing is. And it's a pity Joel couldn't be here, because there was a lot more we talked about before this. Kind of down that is just how you stay so upbeat and positive and inspire people, to be the same way, like just nice overall, So
thank you for your kind words.
Yeah.
That warms my soul. It makes me feel so good to.
Well, we
appreciate
you, not just for being on the show, but everything you're doing. And it's been it's been awesome listening to your story, for especially for the Pony Express, but everything else as well. So
thank you.
Thanks for taking the time to be on the show.
Thanks, Eric. This was exciting and fun.
Yeah, it's how we like it. That's how we like it. But yeah, good luck. 2017, big things to come on a personal level, I'm sure.
Yes.
Some goals set out, and we'll see you on track.
Awesome.
Thanks, Misty. Thank you for listening to the Trail Manners Podcast. We'd like to thank Misty Alessandri for joining us today and wish her nothing but the best of luck in 2017, being injury-free. We also want to encourage everybody to follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at Trail Manners, or swing by our website at trailmanners.com. There, check out our store page link for some gear, or hit us up on the contact page. Let us know what you want to see, who you want to hear, or even if you want to be on the show. Until next time, this is Eric Manning reminding you, you don't get what you wish for, you get what you work for. Now go get it.